guys, it's Darrell. Happy holidays. This is my special holiday video walking tutorial with Daz3D and CLO3D. So let's get started, everyone. Oh, you're going to see some of my mistakes as usual, but this is a little bit complex. This is not for your native beginner user. So here I'm loading the Victoria 8 HD character that is available from Daz Studio Store, and she has some morphs that I use to create her height, make her look a little bit more rounded, muscular, whatever you want your character or model, in this case because it's fashion, to look like. So guys, bear with me as I try to blur out some of the nudity. But Skin Builder 8 is a program that I use also to just, create variations on the model with makeup, skin color, shapes of eyebrows, nails, you name it. It's got a section that will, when you're using an HD character, it will morph all of these things to your desired look. And it's on a sliding scale basis, so you can kind of adjust and move everything. So I like to make unique looking avatars using this. I always start with a bald flat foot model, and I work through her makeup and skin color through the Skin Builder 8 available in the Daz store. Eye color can be adjusted, glossiness of the skin, suntan, all of that is available in Skin Builder 8, which I like to use for my Daz characters. But when I'm using CLO3D, some of these options are not visible in the CLO3D render. And that's just because the render engines are written differently in the code. So as I go through and create the look that I want, I'm just going to be really quick about it and do some eye makeup and some lipstick, and get back to how to put the Daz character into CLO3D. I love the eyeshadows though. You have so many different options here, and it just pops right up on our skin, so you don't have to go into Photoshop, you don't have to go into another program to try to shade the skin map and do all that kind of stuff. Daz3D is a free program. Unfortunately, not all of the software that's attached to it is free. So sometimes you have to make an investment if you want things to look good. So let's pick out some hair. This is one of my favorite hairs to use in CLO. You can highlight it, you can make it different colors, you can make it two-tone, all that kind of stuff. So this is the Dixie hair that you'll find also in the Daz Studio store. So, it's an investment if you want to make this something that you do. As I said, my model is flat-footed, and she has no, right now she has hair, but she has no other accessories. The only other accessories I will put, I do like to change her look a little bit too. Victoria has a certain look about her, but I also brought a facial morph package that you can kind of adjust the look to get it actually a very unique looking model. So there's the beautiful model. That's how she looks in Daz. You'll see that she looks quite different in CLO3D. One day that'll be fixed. So unfortunately, Victoria has a very large bust, which most fashion models don't. So I'm just taking this down a bit. This is when I start using the blur, because Daz3D HD characters are very HD graphic. Anyway, so let's get on to putting on some shoes. We'll go to the wardrobe section. The shoes are also not free. These shoes are also available in the Daz store. This one goes on left and right. So I chose a tan shoe, and that's it. So I'm ready to save, export as the A pose. So right here I have the animate MDD selected, but I'll have to change that once I create a folder, and I'll say A pose, and I realize that I said MDD. So I'm going to label her Zophie A pose and hit collect maps. That will give me a maps folder. But then I'm going to hit converted maps, and you'll see why when we get into CLO3D. So now I have two folders that have maps in them, and the maps are configured differently. Okay, so let's go into poses. Poses are also not free. Unfortunately, Daz program is free, and if you really get into using it as a free program, you'll be able to do all of this. However, for people that just have you know, quick need to create poses, they buy pose packs. So every pose comes with a flat foot thing, but some of them have high heels. Not all of them have high heels, but once you create the wardrobe part with the shoe, you can pick a high heel foot pose. You can pick a high heel foot pose and transition your foot only when you select the actual foot. Then you'll see the poses there for the foot. Now I've already sped up a little bit. I am picking poses that I know will transition well in CLO. That means the arms are not too close to the body, or the arms are not like with an elbow up, or with, you can put it with an elbow up, and I'll show you one with the elbow up that I exported. So right now I'm going to go into animation, and you start back at the A pose in the animation. Trying to keep up with myself here. The animation, if you click on it, it will show you a preview of what the animation will look like. Now these are called animation blocks. Again, you can purchase them in the Daz store. However, not every animation block works with the other, and that's something that we can talk about in another video. But right now we're doing runway walks. So I have a few selected runway walks from different vendors that I'm going to try out. And you need to make a blank block first so that you get your A pose. So first I hit the blank block, and then I add the animation, and then I increase the loops. I save it as MDD file, and it slowly renders. So now we have one rendered animation, and I'll do it again with another walk. So I have a block at the bottom, and I add block to it, and then I stretch it out to increase the amount of loops. And then I save it as an MDD file. Try to keep everything in one folder, try to keep neat, and then it renders out slowly. You can see, and that's it. So I'm going to save this folder as a completed Daz file, a scene file. You can do all different ones, so sometimes they don't work together, but it's another issue. Okay, so open up CLO3D, CLO 5.1. And I'm going to open up the A pose. And click on Daz Studio. You'll have to slow down to see the selections that I made. Okay, so here you have all of your maps. What I like to do is go in and for the eyebrows, you have to go into the collected maps, not the regular maps. So you'll have to pick the eyebrows that are white. And now I'm just going in and doing a little decorating to the OBJ that I have there. So I added some glitter to her shoes, and now we're going to just make a dress. So I can stop with the blurriness. Again, this is just a tutorial on a workflow that works for Daz to CLO. So this is not a pattern making video. But I'm going to quickly make a dress, and I'm going to drape it on the model. Make sure I use my 3D arrangement points and sew it all up. Yep, I like to split the back neck, make it a point, and then delete the point and make it a curve. That's how I get my nice smooth even back neck drop. But now I don't want a one piece back, I want it mirrored, symmetrical. So I split it, cut it, copy it, symmetric editing. Again, this is not a pattern making tutorial. So, sewing it up, giving her a little flare. I mean, it is Christmas. Let's make it red. Let's make it red velvet, sexy Mrs. Claus. So I like to use my 3D points only in case something happens. I could always reset to the 3D points. Now for a neckline, I noticed that if you hit seam tape, it kind of keeps your neckline straight and doesn't allow it to reshape with the rest of the particles, with the rest of the mesh. And now we have our red dress. Okay, not bad. So now let's get back to posing and animation from Daz3D. So you've exported your, oh, save your work, believe me. Oh my God, Christmas party. So a pose. Now she's dressed, and now we need to give her a pose. So I purposely did not put sleeves on, so you can see how easy it is to pose, but then I'll show you how with other parts of the garment it might not be so easy considering the pose that you picked. Load as morph target. Daz does not import OBJ with bones. That is a big issue. So when your OBJ is exported, it has no bones. So when I say it has no bones, that means it kind of collapses, and the bones kind of give it some kind of base. But because they have no bones, you'll see what happens when we put sleeves on. So now I'm just decorating a little bit more just to have a nice looking render of a red dress with glitter shoes. And that's that. I'm going to do a render of 4 looks. And that's pretty much how to do a pose from Daz. You load it as a morph target to your already created Daz A pose. So now let's morph her back to the A pose, because now we're going to try some sleeves. And I'll show you the difficulty with having no bones in your avatar is. Looks nice, but there are a few quirks. Do not hate me because of the sleeve. I did work it out. Again, this is not a pattern making video. Next year I will have more videos on actual flat pattern making in CLO. So look forward to that. How to do some drape styles, how to do some suits, sleeves correctly, how to measure your avatar, all that kind of stuff is going to be ready for next year's focus. Okay, so here's a sleeve, here's a copy of a sleeve. I'm going to put them on a 3D bounding point, because when you import the OBJ from Daz, you actually get your arrangement points, which is great. It doesn't interfere with getting arrangement points. So I see that this sleeve is mega long. after I arrange it, I notice that it's really long. So I shorten it a bit, tighten up the cuff, and that's just all part of using the software. Okay, so now she's got a nice full sleeve, bishop sleeve. And now we're going to load a pose. But I did not hit load as morph target. You can rewind that, but I'll tell you that's what happened. So I lost my whole avatar. So make sure you import your avatar without simulation turned on, or you will have a big mess, a pile of clothes at the bottom. You'll see me do that later. So now I'm just going to go back and rearrange the design I had for my avatar here. Bring in her maps from the map folder, and pretty much reduce the opacity on most of her maps, and that will get rid of it. Make the lips a little shiny, and there you have it. Load as morph target. Now, wonderful. Pretty nice with the sleeves. But let's talk about collision when you don't have any bones. So when you don't have bones, you're going to get collision. So just be careful which poses you pick out in Daz. Boom, and she puts her hand right through because she has no bones. So she puts her hand right through the clothing. The clothing doesn't morph with her because she doesn't have bones. So now you're going to spend a little bit of time to try to maneuver your garment around the new pose. That can be a little bit daunting if you have lots of pieces. Imagine I just have a big puffy sleeve. So here we go. We're going to render this out. But again, when you're editing the face, you're editing through selecting the maps. And some of the maps you can just hit reducing the opacity, but other ones you have to actually link the map up to a mapped image, PNG. So now, let's go back and make a dress that will be our animation dress. So after that render, I think with the animation we want to give a little bit more pizzazz. So I'm just going to add a ruffle to the bottom. And bear with me while I add this ruffle. Or flounce. It's actually a flounce. The glitter flounce. Because it's Christmas, holiday, Hanukkah, Chinese New Year. She gonna wear this dress everywhere. Because I doubt the same group of people will see her and then she can wear it for Chinese New Year when she goes to China. Anyway. She's gonna get a lot of use out of her clothes. It's sustainable. Come on. Alright. For this type of a flounce, I do not use arrangement points only because it tends to wrap around. Some 3D programs, when you arrange a pattern piece, it gives you an option to either wrap it or not wrap it. So CLO hasn't gotten that memo yet, that sometimes you want to arrange something but you don't want it always to be a cylinder around the body. So maybe that will be something that they will add. So now we have our flounce. I'm going to make it a glitter flounce, make it a little bit sheer, and actually when you use the glitter the sheer doesn't come up so much, or I just didn't change the parameters, so it just looks like a glitter flounce. We're going to go back into your A pose, which now you have to redo that sleeve. So if you have garments that have what do you call it, many parts, you might want to really think about how you're going to use these OBJs without bones. It's great if you're just using it for animation, but if you're posing, it can get a little bit complex. But for animation, it's a little bit better because you start out in the A pose and you convert from the A pose into your animation, and actually everything will drape with it, but when you're posing it's a little bit different. So with the MDD file, it will actually animate the clothing. Now you see this little thing at the bottom, I still have a morph here that I did not notice, and it messed up my animation. It told me like my vertices was messed up, so it did not click with the avatar that was there. So just make sure all of your frames are clear, clean and clear. And I end up deleting the avatar by mistake, and then I have to put her back and bring in all of her graphics again and redo her shoes. So again, you're just highlighting each piece. This one, the eyebrows, you have to actually link to the file. I hope that's clear. I think I've done it enough times for you to kind of get what goes on with the actual actual map files. Put some glitter on the shoes, and now I'm ready to make sure you're importing. Yep, I mess up again. So when I go back, you're going to see that the axis is Z. The Z axis has to be clicked when you're importing. The Z axis has to be selected when you are importing an animation onto an already configured OBJ. If you do not click on the Z vertices axes, on the Z axis, you will have a big surprise. Your avatar will come in backwards. Yes. So, if you can see, when I import my MDD file, the axis Z is selected. That means she will come in facing the right side. Now here I have a simulation on custom. Guess what? That ain't gonna work. She will walk right out of the clothes on custom. Because I don't have it on complete, I'm showing you what can happen only because at some point you'll probably make the same mistake and you'll want to just quit. So don't quit. Just make sure that your simulation quality is always on complete when you are draping the animation, or the clothing will not move with you. Haha. You'll get a big surprise like I did, and all your clothing will fall to the ground. For some reason I felt like I had to redo this avatar over and over again. But now I'm smart enough to hit complete. There we go. Guys, I cannot tell you. You can see the minute count at the bottom. This took about 6 to 7 minutes to create the animation of the clothes. Maybe 7 minutes. But to render this walk, I'm already about an hour and 30 minutes into this job of this project, start to finish, without cutting out some of the stuff that I've already cut out and sped up for you guys. So at this point, it's been going for like an hour, and the whole process an hour and a half. You could get to this process in an hour and a half if you have a ready-made garment or a simple garment. However, I suggest you do your garment first and then start this animation. I do not suggest you try to drape and do all of this and then do an animation. You'll be at the computer for hours, unless you have hours to spare. So if it's not such a simple thing, let it render out. You can speed it up, you can slow it down, You can change your camera angles before you render. You can do all of these things. However, we are just going to do it regular, which took about 5 hours altogether from start to finish. Yes, 5. I did do other things, binge watch some programs, went out to Walmart, come back, have some dinner, take a nap, and then check the progress. You can actually leave it alone. Lots of companies have computers that just do rendering, and that's all they do all day. My poor computer, though, was locked up for about 4 hours. Luckily, it was in the evening, and that's what we gotta do. So I'm just changing the background. So I'm getting ready to render. And that is pretty much it. So once now you know how to render an animation, you can pretty much do that. There's also a walkthrough on my channel on how to render an animation. And I'm about to start this thing and let it go. For some reason, it was not showing up in the animation window. And then I just had to save everything. I saved this garment because I wasn't about to do it again in case this computer was thinking I'm crashing. I saved the garment, and I know that I have the avatar somewhere, so I can recreate it, but it didn't crash, so I had to turn it off and then turn it back on. Okay, so I opened up the save project, and now it shows up, and then it starts to animate one by one, by one, by one, by one, by one. So I think it was, yeah, it took about 5 minutes for the first 8 frames. So if you could do the math on that, there are 511 frames. Yes, so maybe 500 minutes. I don't know. Something like that, 5 hours later. So it renders frame by frame. I try to speed it up for you guys as best I can. But you can see frame by frame she starts to move, and after 30 frames is when you start to see the animation. You start to see her walking. What frame is this on? This is like 32, and then all of a sudden she's starting to move. So usually the transition for the garment into the animation, and that's why you use that the block in Daz3D. You use a blank one, which is about 30 seconds. So that's the part of the transition in the beginning that you're kind of holding the pose until the transition begins. And that's that, guys. You can get the rest, the gist of the rest, and I'll show you how long it took for me to 5 hours and 16 minutes to render the entire animation. And then by the time I got back to the computer, it was like 6 hours later. And then we started cutting this video up. So it will take a long time to render. It won't take a long time to create the animation, the avatar, to do all that. Maybe you're looking at a good 2 hours if you already have a garment that's already made. So I hope you liked my video. Like and subscribe. There's some people that don't like my videos. I don't know who it is, but I try to be real with you guys, and I try to, do it as someone who is just learning something for the first time or experiencing things for the first time, and together we can do it, and we can create a new sustainable world of fashion. creating patterns, creating designs that simulate real life garments. Save some people's life, save our planet. You guys know what I mean. I digress.